Hey guys, Seth here with How to Be a Movie Snob. Welcome to Season 2. This is a little weird because we're actually pre-releasing Episode 1. Unbeknownst to us, this was the 50th anniversary of American Graffiti, which comes out in theaters near you. That's right, you can watch American Graffiti, George Lucas's first wide theatrical release, in theaters this upcoming weekend. So to celebrate that, we're going to pre-release Episode 1 of Season 2, where we talk about maybe the best teen movie of all time, American Graffiti. So sit back and relax and enjoy our take on American Graffiti.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Nothing for it. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I love you.
I know.
Get to the chopper!
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I see dead people.
Milk was a bad choice.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob. We are kicking off Season 2. And we are glad you are joining us here. This is sponsored by Make It Known Media and Seth David Films. We are happy to be here, and today we're going to start off kicking off the quote-unquote school year with one of the best teen movies ever. That was the best thing I could have thought.
Arguably.
Arguably. Yes. Let me introduce my fellow co-hosts, starting with the beautiful Mariah across the table.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mariah. She's the artist form of our trio, and then from far away, but not that so far, still the Northwest, Mr. Patrick.
Hi, guys.
And he
great to be back.
great to have
you
you.
guys.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I know,
Been a while.
months. Actually, an undisclosed amount of time because we're not sure when this is airing, but we will get to that.
The weather's changing. The leaves are
Semantics.
turning
Fall.
colors.
It's fall.
Got a sweatshirt on.
School shopping.
Starting to get dark.
It's beginning to look a lot. No, not yet. Okay, that episode's next week.
Very quick.
Pat is our animator, for those who don't know. He actually makes a living drawing things. That's true. That is, well, not
I mean,
anymore.
I don't draw a ton. I do draw some.
He tries to draw
Well,
some.
not a ton.
Yeah, so that's his expertise, quote unquote. I am Seth, and I put on this podcast because my goal was to become a better movie snob. And the reason is because I believe that I will be a better filmmaker because I actually make films for a living, whether it be weddings or commercial and some stuff for fun. I was on the quest to become a better movie snob, and my lovely cousins Mariah and Patrick joined me for the ride. So welcome, guys, to Season 2. We are still on our quest to become movie snobs. But today's a pretty fun one. I'm not going to lie. We're starting off the season not on the snobbiest trail you can go on. Because really, if you're doing a high school movie, it's pretty much aimed for high school and that feeling you get when you're in high school. And so, our movie today is, drum roll, folks. Of course, it's already on the title if you listen to this. And it is, Mariah?
The suspense is killing me. American Graffiti.
That's right. Not Canadian graffiti, not Mexican graffiti, but American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
Not as good as the sequel, but we'll get there. We're starting off with our first segment, which is called Cold Brews and Hot Takes. So we're going to take a quick hot take to see what we think about this movie. Who would like to start us off?
You can jump in. And like I was saying before we started rolling, we do talk before we roll, but it's not the hottest of takes, but I would say this is by far the most natural dialogue George Lucas has ever been associated with.
It's true.
I don't like sand because it gets everywhere. Next to that, love scene, of course. That is one of the great love scenes of all time. Okay, that's a good one. Yes, most natural dialogue that George Lucas has even been connected with. Well, That's a good one.
I
Okay.
think that's fair.
That's fair. It's not. Yeah, no argument here.
Yeah, it's not that hot.
Yeah. Okay, Mariah, go for it.
This movie is Dazed and Confused.
Oh, 100%. And
Maybe not as good.
oh, I like that. That's a good take there. A not as good version of Days Confused.
Sorry, George.
Well,
Hey,
eras. So I would say if this belongs in the Library of Congress, so does American Pie. That's my hot take.
Oh, you could also expand that.
Oh, yeah.
I
Days
mean-
Confused, American Pie. Shoot, I'll throw Varsity Blues in there.
Can't hardly wait.
I love Can't Hardly Wait. But the one thing this has on all those movies, it was first.
It was the
This
first
was before
one.
this. This came out in 1973, a year before Happy Days, folks, and we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yes.
So this is kind of like one of those first teen genre movies. There's been some before it, but I'm the one who kind of led us toward this movie because I felt it was one of the original perfecting of the genre, which is so commonly used. So our next segment, sponsored by no one, unsullied by sponsorship since season 1, is the Summarizing by Miss
letter M.
Mariah.
Yes, here we go. This movie takes place in the 60s, filmed in the 70s. It's the last day of summer.
Boom.
After these guys graduated high school, it's time to start making choices.
That's right.
And the original plan is for them all to leave.
At least 2 of them.
At least
Well,
two.
Yeah.
And
I think only 2 was really part of the plan.
all of them
Both-
were
that's
leaving
both.
town. Not one person was leaving, staying.
The only 4 characters that deserve any kind of post-credit
Yeah.
explanation.
Yeah.
2 of them were going to leave.
Misogynist.
What happens next, Mariah?
Oh, so many things. So many. I was just, yeah. It was, oh man.
It's much like Days Confused and some of those others, like just kind of hangout movies.
Yeah, it's a slow starter. People are just going about their days, having
I love it.
conversations at the diner. Then some people go to the sock hop. Some people get abducted by
At the hop.
some toughs and go on a little adventure. And
Arrows.
also
Or they're
super
cruising the gut.
bad if you want to have the 2000s version.
Super bad. Yep. That's right.
Sorry, random.
No, it's all part of it. It's all part and part
Yeah,
of the
this
genie
was,
gig.
what's his face was McLovin before
There-
McLovin.
There we go.
There.
The original McLovin.
Yeah. Or the original. Yeah. Oh, and it's every movie. Every high school movie has these stereotypical characters.
Yeah. Breakups, makeups. What are we going to do after high school? What does it all mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Overly dramatic. People stuck. People want to leave.
Yeah.
But all pretty enjoyable,
Yeah.
I would say. Like it went down pretty easy, this
Oh.
movie.
So
I would say
easy.
I forget what life culture was like in Monmouth. But I recall
Oh.
around our parts there was a cruising the gut pastime for a bit.
Yeah.
It kind of went out
Walla
of fashion by the time I was actually driving, but it was still a thing. And so there was this interesting, I can relate to how dumb this is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just drive around and you hope you run into people you want to talk to and hang out with. But it's like that is the whole thing. It's just
Oh, it's
maybe
amazing.
something interesting will happen if we drive in a circle for hours on end.
It's
And
amazing.
that's the whole
Yeah.
story. That's like the foundational element of this story. You're like, but yeah, I get it.
I keep thinking do our kids get it, or not even our kids, but our people 10, 15 years younger than us? Because we had this. We didn't have it in Monmouth per se. Because you had Main Street. Shoot, people were cruising Main Street last night. Two guys are going back and forth on Main Street. I'm like, this is hilarious. I just watched a movie about this. But for us, it was downtown Salem. Downtown Salem was like you went around like there's one way.
You go to the big city, right?
Yeah, the big city.
We went to Walla Walla. I mean, we weren't doing this in Milton Freewater. There was no gut.
Oh my goodness.
There was no stoplight.
The culture of this is so. It was such a longer era than maybe. Well, that'd be a good question. Was this the original Cruise in the Gut? Like, did they do that 10 years before this? I assume not, just because. Like
you mean 10 years before the movie takes place?
Yeah, because the movie takes place in 1962, so it was 1950s. Were they doing this, or was it too close to World War II?
Well, and also, realistically, was everybody driving... Was it all about the cars back then? Did everybody pour every dime they had into these great cars to show off? Was everybody going to the same diner?
Right.
You know, it seems like with each decade, there's a few less sock hops these days. And the cars are not exactly so fancy, at least for the high schoolers.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting because the cars that were fancy, like I think the unrealistic part was like how good the paint jobs were. for reals, because like those old Model Ts or whatever, like the chopped up ones in the 60s, it would have been the cheaper way to make a hot rod.
Yeah.
And I assume the car that Harrison Ford's character was driving, I didn't look up what year that was also.
50s.
But it's 10, 15 years old. So it's still like they're not driving the newest thing, which is why it was such a big deal that the one character was driving that super nice car. Because it would be like, oh, he's driving in my 1999, that would have been the Viper. Someone had the Viper back then. That would have been sick. Or the PT Cruiser. Hello. No, not the PT. No, the Prowler. The Prowler. Sorry, the PT Cruiser sucked.
Just rolling over everywhere.
Awful.
Sort of like,
they wouldn't have made it through the race.
McDonald's Monopoly was giving those away, so it must have been pretty
cool. Must have been pretty sweet. Yeah.
I think... Yeah, it was pretty interesting. Like, like how many freaking cars are in the city? I think this was supposed to take place in Modesto, California, which is not a huge city. Population.
It's big for Oregon, but it's not big for California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, there's just a ton of cars. Also, depending on the scene, they were driving like 4 across, 2 across.
Oh, that was amazing.
In the same direction.
That was a big street. That was a big...
What are the rules of this road?
Yeah.
A lot of swerving.
So many
the
things.
cops wanted to give out tickets. There was plenty of things.
Well, Mel's Diner was enormous looking. I mean, for a diner.
Yeah.
That was a large establishment.
I still think that's legit, though, because California's just bigger. Like it's Modesto now is like 200,000 people. Which would be like, what, the 3rd biggest city in Oregon or something. And it's like not even the top 100 in California or something silly like that. And I'm sure, like, in the 60s, it was probably less, like 100,000 or whatever. Maybe less than 100,000. But it's still like California is so big. There's so many people. And the car culture in California is insanity. Like, the story I always tell, the song, The Little Lady from Pasadena? Mm-hmm. Here I am in Pasadena. I went to college in Southern California. The lady next to me, 90 if she's a day. The light turns green. She burns me off the line so quick. And I'm like, it's true. Every Californian drives like a bat out of hell. It's insanity. So I love this. And because George Lucas is obviously ramping it up because this is his childhood. He was a gearhead growing up. Like, he loved cars. And that's one of the
It's so funny to me that the archetypes of our leads are in theory, facets of his personality.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and
other
stages
than the
of his
kid, I think.
Stages of his high school career.
Yes,
isn't that why he got
the
stuck?
The popular kid was not him.
Yeah, isn't that why he got stuck on the relationship part of the storytelling? Is because that wasn't really what he'd experienced. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know
so
how
what
to
happens
talk about
next?
a couple.
Yeah, that was weird. All right.
Let's just have issues and we won't get into it. Just get the car stolen.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Before we jump back in the movie, let's talk about like just kind of getting into this because this is George Lucas's first, other than like his indie stuff, like his THX 1138, his first like big movie he gets to do, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically because he's
Produced
not
by Francis Ford Coppola.
the man. Yeah, and it's always about how friends get you jobs. Without Francis Ford Coppola, we wouldn't have Star Wars because this wouldn't have been a hit.
No.
And they never would have got the green light to get Star Wars. So thank you, Francis Ford Coppola. So this one is interesting because George Lucas seemed to have the most like street cred of that director's era because of that movie THX. Like he got all this like kind of, he's so cool and dick. I remember people talking about George Lucas, and then I'm like, yeah, but you guys are all like they seem snobbier than George Lucas because of Star Wars became so big and so mainstream. But this is like, so for him to do a movie like this, I bet was very surprising for people in the scene. Because that wasn't like what he was known for. He's the sci-fi guy.
Right. And for people to back for one to have him, for them to ask him to write a story that's mainstream and for him to tell it, and it's autobiographical basically.
Oh, which is so fun.
Yeah. And then to have Coppola, who just came off of Godfather.
Oh, which is the best movie ever made. This is the crazy thing about it. Like, hey, George.
Just the timing of all of this
it's
and
just
the
nuts.
starting of all of these stars and
there's a lot. This is a very fun era in directors debuting.
I think this snapshot of time is more interesting to me than the movie. I mean, just where all these actors are going. And
Well, I would say the only reason why the movie isn't as interesting is because it's been redone and that archetype has been literally drilled into the ground so much, especially in the 90s when there's like the revitalization of the teen movie. Like it's just, for us, it's like I can think of 5 movies from like 97 to 2004 that were the same exact plot.
Yeah.
So, which is funny because the movie is just a hangout movie.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Like there's not really a plot. I mean, there kind of is. Like
no, and it's tame. I mean, for a high school, like compare it to Grease, it's
or Porky's or
exactly right.
Yeah.
Or the rumor was that came after that Hot Rod movie that was like all these kids are bad and just trying to run old guys off the road and stuff. It was like Hot Rod from Hell or something like that. It was something hilarious. So that really was kind of this same thing.
Bringing a wholesome take to it.
Oh, for sure. So the things that blew me away, I had no idea this was before Happy Days. Mm-hmm. I literally thought Happy Days was like, they just typecast this kid.
Yeah. He was already a star.
Which
they did in reverse.
No, Pat, you're right. Go with it because I looked this up as well.
Pilot of Happy Days was shot before this movie.
But
because of the success of this movie, they added the greaser character. They added the Fonz based off what's his face? His character, John. Mm-hmm. The drag race guy.
Yep.
And they're like, I guess people do like this era and Ron Howard, and so let's make the show more like American Graffiti and then Green Light.
By the way,
the pilot had been shot before this was shot.
That
before this at least came out.
Huh. I think not before it was shot, but before it came out. Because but there was that other TV show called like American Love Story. Did you look this up? There's this show called American Love Story, and it just has little vignettes. And that was the original Happy Days character starring our boy Ronnie Howard.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, I saw something.
So that was before the pilot, and they picked up that one small story because it's basically like I started watching it, and it was the episode where Cher was on it, a young Cher, by the way. Mm-hmm. Watching a young Cher kind of messes with your brain because I've seen her so many plastic surgeries later. Mm-hmm. But seeing a young, I'm like,
you're a human,
and still very like very attractive and knowing she's attractive, and then Sonny Bono with his weird mustache coming in the scene too. I'm like, oh, this is the 70s. Okay, that's right. Okay, I'm with it. But what's going on right now? Anyways, but then that was like little vignettes, and one of them was with Ron Howard playing his character from Happy Days, and then they took that Ronnie, which I love that they called him Ronnie. I also loved like the John Milner character. They never called him John. They always just called him Milner. Like they used his last name. I'm like, that's such a high school thing to do, especially with a guy named John.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Stifler.
That was legit. Like that was like, I'm like,
well,
oh
I think that was kind of charm about this. It all felt very plausible, and like I've lived versions of a lot of the experiences, give or take.
Oh, so true.
Stripping a cop car of half its wheels, but
how many
was
times?
you.
How many times did you do that?
That was you.
Yeah, nothing I'll admit to on tape, but like the mooning people in the car.
Oh yeah,
throwing
so
stuff
good.
at each other, and like you're like, yeah, none of this is crazy.
No.
And even like the drag racing bits, you're like,
yeah, that wasn't
yeah,
crazy.
I can see that. Like,
yeah, I've been in that.
I thought all the relationship stuff was pretty believable. Like how, Ron Howard's character and Debbie were like acting older than they really are. Like all that stuff. You're like, yep, like that's high schoolers. So it all felt like pretty genuine, and the dialogue, like I said, was the most natural and like funny, and Richard Dreyfuss was charming. It was just like, all right, yeah, like there was nothing, again, maybe to your point, Seth, like revolutionary feeling about any of it, other than knowing that it was the starting point for all these other things, and it's this weird, in George Lucas's resume now, this weird deviation,
right,
from what he was
a happy,
and you're like, well, that's crazy.
To me, it makes George Lucas a real person. To me, this is like, oh, George Lucas is a real person and not just this weirdo who...
And filmmaker.
Makes sweet movies.
Yeah, and he can make a film about himself. And I thought that was great. And he did that so...
Yeah, the fact that he's aware of himself enough to be able to... Like, the fact that he lived a normal-ish childhood, that kind of is comforting, knowing what he brought to us after that.
Right. And
he got so weird later, or maybe he was
so
always
much
weird, but like
right. Then he could just live it out.
He hadn't quite found it yet.
Well, I also think George Lucas's superpower was in his first wife too. That's a hot take too, because I think once he divorced his first wife, I think his movies.
Well, he lost some tether to.
Yeah, he
reality.
lost some of the 100%, because she's like, you need to bring the relationships back, because she actually got relationships, and George is like, but I don't like sand. Sorry, I'll stop going there.
Deep dive. I would actually argue too that Ron Howard has been typecast since he was born. I mean, Opie is like this sweet, goofy.
Well, this was his
easy to like guy.
I almost spilled beer everywhere, guys.
Not again.
Not again. No, but
I can't say I'm a real. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not a Happy Days aficionado, but like in this movie, like Steve was meant to be like a popular kid, like he was class president.
Class president anyway. He had the personality, but I'm still looking at him going, you're Ron Howard. You're
Except
still Opie.
All the girls liked him. That was weird in this movie.
Every girl was like, hey, what are you doing? And
thinking he and Lori were breaking up. Hey.
Hey.
It's like.
I felt
I don't know that Steve's got that much game.
He
clearly doesn't, because Debbie was like, or Lori, like, I made every move.
First of all, you don't have to have game. You just have to make it.
Did you identify with that conversation, Pat?
I'm calling your wife right now.
Maybe I did.
So the funny thing about that is Ron Howard took this part to help deviate him from being just a child actor. Yeah. This was his first I'm an adult.
Yeah, man.
That's not my dad. That's a cell phone. I'm an adult.
I'm not with Andy Griffith right now, you guys. I'm on my own.
Treat me with respect.
Not my real dad.
It's not my real dad.
I'm still whiny and snivelly, but you know what?
I'm nice.
And
Also, I could
I
not
love that.
quit thinking about Arrested Development because when I hear his voice, I mostly now associate it with Arrested Development.
Oh,
right?
it's
Like,
so
that's
good.
burned in my brain. So it's like,
Well, you ready for this?
I couldn't stop thinking about it.
I had no clue that was Richard Dreyfuss until after I watched the movie.
Oh, no.
I had no clue. I watched it the whole time. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. No clue. And then
Did
later,
you like him?
I thought it was okay. Yeah. I thought Ron Howard is obviously more likable on screen. Like,
Oh, interesting. I kind of
I
disagree. I
disagree.
think Richard Dreyfuss had this subtle, charming, like you could see him talking his way out of stuff.
yeah, that's true.
Like Ron
Yes.
Howard he's Ron Howard, bless his heart. But Richard Dreyfuss felt like, like that.
You don't get the
awkward,
head cheerleader
cool
in class
kid.
presidency being quirky.
What? But Ron Howard did.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
but
right.
Dreyfuss.
Oh, right. No, Dreyfuss felt like your Say Anything John Cusack character that you, for sure.
Figuring it
For
out.
sure. No,
yeah.
he's our
Little
hero.
artsy,
Yeah.
although we didn't get into that other than they're like, he turned out to be a writer.
Yeah.
Like,
rolled
he
with the
just
gang
was.
and he figured out how to make the best out of that.
That was
and like,
great.
yeah, man, this is okay.
That was great. I love that a lot.
I would say, as far as character development went, there wasn't a ton in the movie.
But he had a lot of stuff, I guess,
It was
compared to everybody else.
He did the most because.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna backtrack on that. Like, there were character arcs.
Oh, there we
But
go.
in terms of character depth,
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
it's like
we're cruising movie
who
here.
was
It's high school.
he before this night started, and so as they're struggling with these things, you got the sense well, he seemed promising to people, people thought he should get out of town, but I was like, I don't know why. Was he smart? Was he talented? Why is he going anywhere? So there's a little bit of empty void of who any of them were before this night, which was fine.
Yeah.
I think for the movie, but again, I was like, I don't know anything about you,
No.
Kurt. Other than you don't know what you want.
And he got a $2,000 check.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
as
a lot of
a
weirdness.
scholarship
From
Is
the
that
Moose Lodge.
Yeah, everyone loved him in
Yeah.
the movie, and it was kind of not explained, which is kind of fun. That's kind of fun. You're just apparently, I mean, he's got a smooth tongue.
I'm sure
Brother
everybody
knows-
was just identify with this guy. Everybody he's the guy
Well-
that everybody liked.
He's good.
But I think with
You don't need to
the
know
Moose
why.
Lodge thing was they're weirdos, right? I think they're really playing up with those character actors. He's a moose because we're all weirdos and he's a weirdo too. And it's he didn't seem that weird,
That's true.
Yeah. Maybe he just doesn't like stuff everyone liked, but he wasn't
Yeah.
offbeat, wacky. He was just a guy who doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of different ways I want to go with this. Do you guys look up who the girl in the?
I knew who it was the second
What?
I saw her.
No, you did
Yes.
not.
I didn't.
I did
Really?
not.
I had to
How
look.
did you
Oh,
figure that
man.
out? From this picture, you could figure that out.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. It was on her for a good 5 seconds. And
Well, yeah.
Not
yeah,
long
I was
enough.
like, oh yeah, Suzanne Summers for sure.
No way.
'cause,
How did
again,
you
my
do
Suzanne
that?
Summers
I was so
is
confident.
more step by step.
I was so
Oh.
confident.
The mom
I
version.
waited till the end to check the credits to confirm that I knew who it was. I was like, yeah, I know her.
When you watched Tropic Thunder, did you know it was Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know till the end
But
either.
I think I knew before.
Oh,
the
that's
movie.
cheating. Okay,
I
'cause
think
I-
I knew going into it.
I-
but I
yeah,
think
okay.
I would have known.
No, you wouldn't, because he was just jumping on the couch on Oprah, and the next
Oh.
thing he's doing this movie. Come on,
Maybe.
just
I
saying.
think maybe I just knew.
I
but-
can't go back and
But yeah,
tell you.
with
No,
Suzanne
okay.
Summers,
I had no clue.
no
No clue.
clue. I just
Yeah.
thought blonde,
Yeah,
and then
super fun. That's a super fun, deep thing,
Yeah, it
like
was fun
rando.
little-
When
Yeah,
did
yeah.
Three's Company come out?
Very soon
Even
after.
after.
Very soon after.
And Laverne and Shirley.
And Laverne and Shirley the
And-
next year, and yeah, that's the crazy thing.
So
All these
everybody got.
huge
Yeah.
after this movie, just huge, and on television, they all starred on the big screen, and they got big in television, which
Yeah.
is nutty.
And Harrison Ford was still a carpenter.
Yeah, and Harrison Ford couldn't get a freaking job, poor guy. That's a crazy
well,
thing
they
about
had to
that.
up his salary for him to do this over, not just doing carpentry. because he was making more money as a carpenter than an actor.
And let him not cut his hair.
That's still true, by the by.
Yeah.
You can still make more money as a
Possibly,
carpenter than most actors.
Yes, I love that too. Like, I don't want to cut my hair to. It's one of those things too. Like,
The script
that
said
there
he
was
had
some
like a
period-
flat top or
Buzz
whatever.
cut, yeah.
But
Yeah, and it's he looked like Buzz from Home Alone or something, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I didn't care at like honestly the hair was distracting to me. Like Terry, who had like the super short top, but then really long sides.
Well, because when it was fixed, it was supposed to be slicked up, which was very hip at
it
the
was
time.
just like,
but his hair was messed
looked
up
like
more
flock
than
of
anything.
seagulls.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? And so to me, like, Harrison Ford's character having any kind of hair did not matter to me at all.
No.
Like,
I thought the
I was
hat.
like, I don't care if
I
it's
thought the hat
period
would have
accurate.
stood out more than the hair.
You know, it's funny.
Yeah, but
You
I
know,
think that was actually cool. Like, he stands out as this, like, he's the cowboy hat guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, give him a look.
Yeah, for sure. But I do have to say, we're preparing for a garage sale in our real lives, and we're going through a lot of old pictures and things. There's a lot of people with the crop tops in this era. A lot of people with the Tom Peterson. That's a Portland reference for all y'all out there.
And Gloria too.
And Gloria too has the Tom Peterson flat top. That was like a standard cut in the 60s. So it is interesting that in this whole movie, nobody's got that cut.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit because it's the 70s and nobody wants that cut in the 70s.
Well, yeah, I think Toad did, and that's why it kept flopping down because they had no idea how to manage it.
That's true. That's true.
I couldn't figure out what was going on because when he was a little disheveled, and when it was like,
then it was really laying
kind
down
of-
flat. You're like, is he Jewish?
yeah, but then it was
Orthodox?
clearly buzzed.
I don't like working on it. I don't
Clearly
know.
buzzed up top, and you're like, what is happening with your hair?
Party
And
in the
John
front. No.
Kind of had the flock of seagulls.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
It
yeah.
was longer.
Yeah, his was a
Anyway.
little more Elvis-y.
Oh, yeah.
It was just one of those, like, I don't care.
James
you know,
Dean.
like, again, I don't know how many people were like, that's not what people looked like
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah. So another fun thing about this movie is kind of how crappily it was shot.
It was real low budget.
Yeah, and they did it on and Lucas did it on purpose. And what I love about it is he did like 2 cameras at a time to like save on
blocking.
time, which I thought was hilarious, which is great because then he's just like, we're gonna shoot it on 35 mil. And we're gonna shoot with these cameras that only do this, but then low light sucked, so they had to figure out a bunch of light stuff, so they had to bring in a friend. But it was funny because it was basically copying all the B-movie hot rod movies of the time, which is great. So he was kind of like, it really is an homage to these B high school movies that came out before. He just did it really dang well. Like this movie it plays really well in 2023 for being a low budget first movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I actually thought
I think
there
the
was
writing
something refreshing
Yeah.
to the camera work.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's funny you bring up Dazed and Confused. It is this era's Dazed and Confused because Dazed and Confused is a great 70s movie.
And Fast Times at Ridgemont High for
Yep.
the 80s.
And we almost that was on the list of high school movies we're going to watch.
Yeah.
And so like this is that thing, and it's great
It
because
really
it's-
set it up because I mean I was sitting there watching this going, I can pick this movie, 1 or 2 of them, and each decade following that fit this so very closely. The music, like the soundtracks, all of them have excellent soundtracks.
Let's
for
talk
the
about
decades.
that. But again, so this was only the second movie to really use popular music as the soundtrack. The first being Easy Rider, and that 1969. But that was a hard sell because for those of you who make films, the rights to music are the biggest pain in the butt of anything.
But was it in the 70s?
100%.
It was.
Oh yeah, it was. It's arguably worse then than it is now, and it's terrible now.
But once you got
No
to
one-
the
no one wants to
90s,
pay artists
80s,
now,
90s,
so.
and 2000s, those artists are still new and they want to get heard, and they
Well,
happen to pick some really great stuff too.
So the problem is it's okay to cover a song. So for example, my daughter loves Trolls 2. That's fine because it's a bunch of covers of said original work. But when you use the original work, let's talk about the movie Cocoon. That movie hasn't been released on streaming because of the music rights, not because of anything else the studios can do. Because they don't want to pay for another music rights. And so we've lost Cocoon unless you have it on DVD or VHS. But you can't find it anywhere streaming.
Laserdisc.
Or Laserdisc. Was it on Laserdisc?
I think that's what we had it on.
We either had it on Beta or Laserdisc. I forget.
So
Yeah.
dope. Beta.
Something we don't have a machine for.
Did I mention? Okay, so we're gonna have to make why Pat and Mariah are more movie snobs than Seth. I was allowed to watch nothing growing up. I think, is that right? Is nothing the correct answer
Well,
for
it was a.
this?
Although some of the
yeah.
stuff you were allowed to watch is questionable.
Well, for sure. Yeah. No, Carmen was a rough thing we had to watch. But
Such a subset.
you guys were the first people I knew who had a satellite dish, and not a small dish, folks. This is the big ones that got messages from Mars.
it was a good 8 feet in diameter.
And it physically moved
Maybe more.
every time you changed the channel, like physically moved in the backyard. And they had a format called Beta. Kids, go ahead and look that up. Beta, B-E-T-A. Yep, you won't find it anywhere.
No.
And then Laserdisc, which is actually very legit, but very expensive and impossible to find a player nowadays. And you not only had like Laserdisc, you guys had like the most Laserdiscs I've ever seen.
Yeah, we all had.
We had a lot.
Ever.
We all had player. Our house, grandma's house, the golf course, all had the player.
If you don't know what a Laserdisc is, folks, it's like a DVD, but the size of a record. And you need like
You put
twice
it in
as
the
much
machine,
space.
and the machine sucks the disc out of
Pull
the
it
rug
out.
holder.
Yeah. But the quality was DVD quality. Like it was
Yeah.
the best quality at the
It's
time.
like high def.
But it never took off because it was too expensive, too
Yeah,
big.
you guys
It's
should
very
have seen how
unwieldy.
crisp Pollyanna was.
Hey, I think you guys had Superman 1, 2, and 3
Well, yeah.
in Laserdisc, which was legit.
And I think we had Star Wars, and I think we had a lot. I think they sold pretty well at yard sale.
Oh, I'm sure those are
Before
worth.
even I think
They're
people were
worth bank
really
now
collecting.
for that stuff.
know.
I think we got the majority when that store was kind of going out of business.
Oh,
and
yeah.
nobody else was buying them.
Yeah, because I buy Laserdiscs every once in a while if I see them because I'm like, this is so fun because they're so big. The formats, it's like a record, but a
big.
movie.
I mean,
so
it's a
fun.
movie poster
It's
right
it
there,
really
too.
is.
Yeah.
It really
yeah.
is.
Great for art. But yeah, I don't think we had this movie. I don't think we had American Graffiti.
Yeah, I'd be interested if
No.
it was released on Laserdisc. And honestly, again, because of the music it chose. Because that was so fun about this movie. Because now we're so used to it with like Quentin Tarantino. Like he lives by the cool soundtrack. And Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like it's the soundtrack is arguably as good as the movies. So it's now commonplace, but it wasn't in 1973. It was very unusual. So it's kind of this fun thing that they just kind of made a standard. And then teen movies since then, it was almost like an honor for an artist to be on it. Because I remember I had the Can't Hardly Wait soundtrack. I had the Days to
so
Confuse
good.
soundtrack. I
American
had
Pie.
American
Soundtrack was
Pie
pretty good.
soundtrack. Because they're all these like of that era. So good soundtrack that represented it. I mean, I'll throw Forrest Gump in there too, because that soundtrack was so incredible for just the time span it had as well. But it wasn't a teen movie. Well, it kind of was. So yeah, that was a great thing. I didn't realize that. I thought that was a standard thing, but no, this is one of the first movies to do the popular songs for their soundtrack.
Which I think, just kind of giving old Georgie some props. Like, there's a lot of things early in his career, decision-wise, that were very bold, and out of the norms. And I think with the soundtrack stuff, I think that was one of those things Francis Ford Coppola had to help fight for.
Yep. He came back and fought for
among
that.
other things.
Yep, that's true.
Which, and I think
The title
just
of the
fact that-
movie.
Yeah.
yeah.
So many.
Well,
things.
couple real bad.
It was like a
options
boring day
there.
in Modesta or something like that.
One Night in Modesto or Rock and Roll. Nights or
Rock and
something.
roll hot rod.
Coppola's rock and roll something.
Oh, that's so
And it's
good.
like, I see why. American Graffiti is like, what is that? But like, way better than anything
Yeah.
that you're talking about.
They did not have good second or fourth or fifth choices for
Yeah.
that.
But and going back to like the camera work and stuff, it was really interesting because I don't think George Lucas went handheld again ever in his career, basically.
Oh, right, yes.
After this movie.
Why would he? He didn't
He
have
talked
to
about
anymore.
going. Yeah, like that's
I've got
for
12
poor
people to do
be
this for
documentary
me.
style.
Go big.
But just in terms of like that documentary feel, like it felt way more like you're in the mix with people.
Yep.
Of course, everyone's going back to that, or has been going back to that for a long time now. But like, when you switch to Star Wars, like that's all dollies and cranes, and everything's very smooth. But like coming from this, like that's one of those things. Like I think it was sports restraints he had early in his career that made his work better, versus when he got everything he ever wanted. And you're like, well, that's not as good as when you had to solve difficult problems because there was no budget. But
yeah. And there's also clever things he had to do because he spent so much money on music licensing. He couldn't afford to get Elvis in there because Elvis was like, a 1963 movie without Elvis is kind of weird, but he couldn't do it. He also had no traditional soundtrack at all because he couldn't afford it. So he just had to use like sound effects.
There's no score.
There's no score.
That's true. There isn't.
I think the only time there's not just music is when they lose the car and they're out in the woods. There's kind of creepy music happening, which I don't know what that's from, but
interesting.
I think that's the only time it's not like a song or the Wolfman talking. And even that was like a cool thing.
Oh, that was cool.
I think they decided in editing almost that like he would be the through line of the movie. I forget who gave him that advice, some other famous person, I think. But
and the fact that they had himself
play himself, that was great.
Yeah. And recorded all those recorded phone calls and stuff were from the show.
The actual show. That was awesome.
I thought that was pretty
what
cool.
I love about this is it feels like it's such a treat because it feels like you get to be there because everything felt like it was real. Like one of my favorite weird scenes because it felt real was when he's sitting in the back seat with his ex-girlfriend and the dorky girl's in the front seat. And the dorky girl's like, hey, talk to him. I think he's like, what do you want to say? Just talk to him. And he's like, hey, man, what you doing? And then he's like, she's madly in love with you. And then she's so irately mad. And I'm like, why are you so mad? But I'm like, that's legit how you'd be in high school. You'd be mad for no reason. I thought that was.
I think you would have been the guy that hang out the window and say, hey, she's really in love with
100%.
you.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, I'd be like that in college. High school is not quite there yet. But yeah, I definitely was.
You might have.
I might have. I don't know. You never know. It was
backflip out of the car.
It took my shirt off. I don't know. It was definitely, but all of it felt so good. Like I'm like, oh, it's awkward and perfect.
Yeah.
And what I loved is apparently George Lucas used like outtakes in some of the scenes.
Oh yeah. Well, like when she gets smashed in the face with the water balloon, that was meant to like hit the window.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, they stayed in character.
The opening scene when he drives up with a Vespa and like loses control. I literally thought I watched that. I'm like, that's a legit stunt. Like it looks like he really lost control because he did, and it was an outtake, and George Lucas decided to keep it. And I thought that was
that's
awesome.
Pretty good and awkward. Stick with it.
It was so good.
Stayed in character.
Fine. This is great.
And that Vespa just stayed parked there the whole movie. I like that continuity.
That was great.
It just constantly smashed into that wall.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, the cars.
What did you guys?
Oh my gosh, the cars. Sorry,
No,
we talked about the Vespa because the Vespa is amazing by itself, but the Vespa is nothing compared to these cars. The car that's Obi's car. Sorry, I shouldn't call him. That's Ronnie Howard's character's car. Was just insane. I don't even know what car that was. That's how. And then the T-Bird is like your amazing T-Bird. The hot rods. It's just this has got to be one of those first movies that although every car in it felt great, even the Peugeot that Kurt was driving. Was it no that Richard Dreyfuss's character was driving? I'm like, those are.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was awesome. I'm like, those Peugeots are hard to find.
Like a little thing.
Yeah, it's like a Volkswagen, but that's definitely a French Peugeot. So anyways.
Yeah, Eric had a family member that collected those.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
It was probably hard to collect because they don't drive.
They don't. They sat parked in the yard, and it
drove
his aunt crazy. She's like, "Get these things out of here."
I think Peugeot was one of the top auto manufacturers in the world still to this day.
Oh no.
Because I think they own like Anyways,
They just don't call
I wa-
themselves Peugeot anymore.
no, they do.
Not out loud.
In France, they do. I'm a Formula One guy, so I definitely there was definitely a Peugeot. Anyways, okay, go ahead.
But yeah, like, I think
digress.
I mean, that was another appeal of the movie, was like just getting to look at cool old cars.
So cool.
There's definitely some funny anecdotes about like the owners of said cars, like
yes.
when I think Milner's jumping across, like when they're. I mean, that was actually very insane. Like, let's let all the air out of this car's tires and smother the stuff. The windows in shaving cream.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty harsh. Like, now this car's just stuck there.
And they did it really fast for the scene.
And no one tried to stop them. They're just like,
wait.
Ha, ha, ha.
Okay, I watched that scene, and did they actually let out the air, or they just spray stuff on it?
He let the air
The
while
car was
she was
flat.
spraying the car.
Oh, that's so funny.
And the tires totally flat.
I was
and
like,
they drove off.
I'm like,
It
maybe that's just a
was
figure of speech.
Undrivable.
That's
but
crazy.
The,
well, and they basically
apparently
made
the
it.
owner of that car was in there.
Apparently,
great.
they
And-
made it like the length of the street light too. I think is how they timed it out, where
Oh,
they were
right.
running around
Yeah.
so fast and managed to let all the air out and shaving cream the whole
and no
car.
one got out to be like, stop, because we need to be able to drive. But yeah, apparently the Milner, was it John LaPat?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say his name. Or no, Paul Lamette.
Close.
Frank Sabat.
His name was John.
He doesn't mind.
No.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Paul Lamette. He like kind of improv jumping over the car apparently, and George Lucas filming was like, oh no, like please don't scratch this car that the owner is sitting inside of right now. So definitely some diciness.
Oh yeah,
with
because all these cars,
these nice cars.
these cars would have been classics then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in
and I
the
think there was
race,
just kind of a cow call, like, hey, we're filming this period movie. Bring your cars out.
that's-
You might make it in.
Dope.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of like dicey stuff. I mean, the
We
race,
liked-
didn't two people almost die? Two of
I
the
think one cameraman was run over.
yeah.
I didn't hear he died, but he
Yeah,
was run
it's
over
like
filming.
I think I read like 2 near death. Like nobody died, but there was some serious injuries.
So they weren't
happening.
happy.
No.
We like to interrupt this podcast to say, bring all your cool cars to the Make It Known studio. We're about to film something really cool, yet to be disclosed.
Yeah.
It may just look like me driving your car one night after another, but
And
really,
there won't be money.
No.
no money. You'll get residuals from the ticket sales.
Yeah.
If
for
ever there's a
whatever-
sponsor for this.
Oh, so good. Okay.
yeah, I was gonna ask, what did you guys think of the sort of structure of the movie, which again isn't like new, but I think, and it was meant to be more deliberate than it ended up being, but just sort of jumping between the 4 storylines, and honestly, like how
great.
unconnected in a lot of ways they were.
Perfect. I love that. Let's talk about Game of Thrones last season.
That's it. And perfect.
Let's talk about how
Not a good discussion.
stupid
Leave
the
it.
new Game of Thrones is, and because they don't cut between it, and how great the Game of Thrones was when they did cut between scenes. No, this is great. I freaking love this. When they do it well, and when it's seamless, and you like all the stories, it's gold. It's freaking gold. Because usually, like when they do this in shows now or whatever, like there's one of the subplots that you're like, nah, whatever. Let's get back to the plot I care about. But this one, you're like, oh, I care about every single subplot. This is awesome. So no, I love that. I thought it was done well, and I didn't even care if it was disjointed a little bit, because this movie is supposed to be disjointed because it's just a hangout last day of summer movie. So no, I'm in. Don't get me started about the freaking House of Dragon. Boo.
Yeah, and I think
just so
honestly, Ron Howard's
So lame.
story was the only one. I mean, his girlfriend was great.
Oh, she's so
And
great.
did she get nominated for an Oscar for this?
Research team,
I can
keep
tell you.
going on your next point though. Oh, you got your Pat.
Cindy Williams.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
you
I
looking
think
it
it
up?
was her.
Okay, you look it up then.
Nominated.
I think she was.
Nominated. Yep.
Yeah. So she was great. But like Steve was the only character that I didn't like more at the end of the movie than the beginning. Really?
He still,
like I think
he still
Kurt,
did what she said. Yeah.
Kurt went through a bunch of fun shenanigans, and you got to know him more. And Milner's character, like kind of befriending this like teen he didn't want to hang out with, and being this like wise old racer like, that guy's an idiot. Like, but like, I don't know. I enjoyed him. Like, he really, grew on me throughout. And then even Toad, Terry, Tiger, whatever he was going by.
Okay.
He too kind
Terry
of
the
had
Tiger.
an interesting arc. I think Steve just kind of stayed a little bit flat for me, but
okay,
because of his girlfriend and his relationship to the other people, it all kind of held it together.
And he didn't know who he was. Obviously, Pat, they've had to, you knew, well, the funny thing is, as soon as we started the movie, when Steve was telling,
you want to.
yeah, Kurt.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a total.
You knew that immediately, well, we know this is going to be the opposite for the end of the night.
It's like, it was very American Pie. Like, I feel like they took that storyline and just, oh my gosh.
It's the same movie.
It's so, the pressure, we're going away. We got to do this before we leave.
Yep.
We should break up when we go to college.
Mona Lisa Smile, same storyline too.
Yeah.
Didn't see me coming with that one, did you? Right field, folks.
Wow.
Deep cut.
Wow.
I have seen that movie. I don't remember much about it, but I have seen it.
Let's just say that Julia Stiles' character decides to stay, okay? And originally she was going to go.
She does.
Do we need to discuss the
12-year-old?
Well,
nothing happened
also
with the 12-year-old.
No, but she's 12 when she was filming it. And we got to talk about that. Okay, so
someone had to be her guardian.
Someone had to literally be her guardian.
the producer.
Oh my gosh, this is what freaked me out.
Parents were like, get on a plane, and I guess you'll be fine.
You can have her.
It's the 70s. I'm sure nothing bad's going to happen.
No.
So when I was watching this movie, I'm like, okay, creepy, statutory rapey. Okay, this is bad. But then it was worse when I found out she was younger than I thought she was. Because I'm like, oh, she's probably like 18 playing like a 14-year-old. No.
12.
She's 12 probably playing a 12-year-old. So then I was like, this is way worse.
Yeah, that was pretty weird.
So, but they never acknowledged her age or whatever else. And so that was kind of interesting. And it's like, and it's a bummer because
she's the younger sister of a high schooler, in theory.
She just happened to be riding along and was the only one that wanted to get in with him.
Also,
how old is John supposed to be?
Terrible sister.
Yeah, bad sister. Like, I'll get you later.
Hey, you're too rapey for me. Here's my younger sister. that's how it felt like.
You.
Yeah.
Like, at what point in the night is she like, oh, I have no idea where my sister is?
Yeah.
There's so many things.
And their dad apparently is very stern about staying out late.
And
like,
wouldn't even let her listen to the radio show. Like, he won't let me listen to this.
Oh, and the reasons why you weren't allowed to listen to the Wolfman, they started real bad. I'm like, they just used the N-word real quickly here. Oh. Do you remember that? And then it was like, so they're all like, I'm like, that doesn't.
I mean, it wasn't the N-word. It was a N-word.
I don't know what the difference.
It was the second worst.
Either way, yes. But yes, the old-fashioned. I see what you're saying.
Which maybe was okay at the time.
I don't think so. It's 1973. I doubt it. Maybe, I don't know. I was born in
California. It probably wouldn't have been okay.
I feel like MLK, used that in some speeches, and so I don't know.
That's a good point.
I can't say.
It was 73.
Certainly white people can't say it.
Yeah, but it was hilarious though. But it was still the fact was I can't listen to this person because he's black, which was hilarious. Like that was like the reason why their parents.
A little casual racism.
A little casual, like, oh yeah, no, I'm not allowed to listen to people of another race, please. And I was like, this is where we're starting. And so I'm like, okay, where are we going from here? And so and they never, it's just, but then again, it felt real.
White movie, also.
For sure.
Which. I think we had kind of a Latino pharaoh.
Yes, the pharaohs had.
And then the guy who wasn't the Wolfman also.
Yeah, but ambiguous, Hispanic. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
But I think actual Wolfman is black.
People of color.
Yeah,
I understand.
Yeah. Which plays to the era.
Yeah.
Because.
I mean.
Yeah.
And maybe was accurate to Modesto at the time. I don't know.
It would be interesting
Northern
because
California enough.
So in my because Modesto, Well, it was Northern California. Because, like, we live on I-5, we call it the corridor, right? So, like, my mom went to the same high school I went to, and there was a pretty decent Hispanic, mostly from Mexico, presence. So, like, when I went to my high school, it was like third or fourth or fifth generation Mexican who've been there. So, like, and I think we were 60-40, like 60% like Caucasian, 40% Hispanic. So it's interesting thinking that Modesto would not have a similar like demographic as we weren't 60-40 in 1963 when this movie's supposed to take place, I suppose. But it'd be interesting, like, at least they had one person who could possibly have been Hispanic. But it's just interesting that there wasn't more in 1960s, because it was definitely part of the,
well, yeah,
like, that was definitely a reality back then, and usually the second generation by then, arguably. So anyways, but that, yeah, but that's,
it wasn't non-existent, but it was not prevalent for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
well, and I think it also at that time might have gone to the what school do you go to,
That's very true,
because
as well.
they're mostly hanging out with kids from the same school.
But also, switching from race topic, I love the just what school are you at? Like the whole, like, we're just cruising. We have no idea really who each other are.
I do remember that about high school.
I remember that too, though.
Oh, you go to Wahi, you go to DeSales, you know, all that's pretty fun.
You find out
That's
when you all
legit.
go to the county fair to hang out. We didn't have Mills Diner. We had the county fair.
I do remember going to the movie theater and running to gals around my age, and that would be the conversation as well.
Like, ooh, she's from Salem.
Like, oh, where are you from? Oh, from South Salem. Okay. Like, no, that was legit.
A preschool dance. There was a hop happening, like a back to school, almost back to school dance.
I couldn't figure that out.
Well, yeah, there was a teacher reprimanding.
That was hilarious.
And he's
Or
like,
was
I
it-
already graduated.
You don't
like,
even
so then
remember, do
why
you?
are
Was
you
it, like,
here?
Seniors, you know, is it one of those, like, the seniors technically had graduated,
Yeah.
But they
there was
invited
still
them back to
school?
dance. That was the craziest part about it. Like, they were invited
Oh, yeah,
back
that
to
was weird.
dance. That would be nuts. Imagine if you brought the graduated seniors back to was it the sophomore dance or the freshman dance? I couldn't figure out what that was.
They said freshmen.
So that's crazy.
Felt
So
very creepy.
So that's like
also.
you got a bunch of 15 and 14-year-olds with some 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds. That would be dangerous.
Well, which is
Again,
the thing,
dazed and
of course.
confused.
Again, dazed and confused.
Yeah.
It felt, I mean, was John Milner
McConaughey would be all right.
not McConaughey?
Yeah,
all right.
a little bit.
I'll race you.
He
I'll
really
race you.
was.
He really was. I wonder if,
the
like,
older I get, they stay the,
the
same
same.
age.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see you later.
As the,
It rings a little different now.
as the,
You know?
as the, as the non-George Lucas Star Wars would say, this is the way. This is the way. So yeah, so that was it's very rapey all the way through. I just have to say, like, it just feels
It's sexual harassment-y.
sexual harassment, not rapey. Okay,
No.
I didn't know which way to go with it.
Yeah,
but
it's
but
harassment.
it's constant. But it's also like the girls had no other choice but to hang out this way.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what you did.
It's just what you did. So
What I did like about it is none of the girls were pushovers or
No.
easy about
even
any of
12-year-old,
this. Even-
especially
yeah.
12-year-old, I would say.
All the women kind of held their own in it. Sadly, they didn't get to find out how anybody else turned
Nope,
out
didn't
that
matter.
were women.
They all died
Yeah.
or lived forever after.
Who knows what
So
happened to
funny.
Lori?
First
They
of
have
all,
the wrong
let's talk
genitalia
about
to
that.
care about
Why did you need to tell us what happened to him? I don't
It was
understand
such a
that.
weird
That made
blip.
me be like, was this a real story? Like,
Yeah.
based on,
Yeah.
That's
it just was
weird.
yeah, it was
George
like,
Lucas
And
strikes
if you're
again.
going to go to all the
Well-
trouble to talk about those four, why don't
Yeah.
you finish? You know?
Well,
like,
it was kind
they
of
weren't the only
sad.
people in the movie.
Yeah, but the rest were
Yeah,
women, Mariah.
It wasn't like an
I
Animal
know.
House.
Bad.
Dude.
You know, it wasn't an Animal House last joke about like where they all ended up.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
It
so
was just,
great.
like,
It was like an
This guy
informational
died.
thing.
It's so bad.
this guy settled, like, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
This guy
Like, who
doesn't even
cares?
live in the United
This guy
States
died
anymore.
in Vietnam. This got rough
This
quick.
guy ran away from the war to Canada. You're
Oh
like,
my
okay.
gosh.
He's a draft dodger.
It
I
was,
know.
it was super, super unnecessary.
And then
Yeah.
I was
But then it got me being like, wait, is this real? Like, why are you telling me this at all?
so then I started thinking like, so did the sequel actually follow what these things said?
Well, and that
Do
was
we
like,
already know? Because they made a sequel and they already told us what happened to
I did
him.
hear that they had to change something about Milner's character for the sequel because he had like died
In a
Oh, yeah.
drag
a
race.
couple of years after this
Drunk-
or
it was
something,
drunk
and they had to be
driver.
like, no, that didn't happen. I don't know. I didn't research anything about.
So then
what is
I
it
wonder.
called? More American Graffiti,
Yeah.
Return of American. I don't know what it
I
is.
think it's more.
And George Lucas is like, hey, buddy, if you can write this, you can direct it.
The Graffiti Strikes Back.
The graffiti strike.
I think it's American Graffiti Electric Boogaloo, I believe is what the.
Also, like, yeah, why have a sequel to this movie?
I
mean,
don't know.
I guess
Money.
they made Grease
I
2
love
also.
in
so, who knows?
2023
That's true.
you're asking why have a sequel. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, but I guess it's like to
Why
me,
wasn't
this is not a.
Why wasn't it 3?
Why haven't they repraised
Yeah.
it in 2023 is my question. Why hasn't Harrison Ford also done American Graffiti again?
Right.
Well, and George Lucas probably, didn't get franchise rights or
Oh, there we go.
retail.
Retail. It's all about retail, baby. Those American
action
Graffiti.
figures.
Oh, if you got Mattel, American Graffiti, that
The
stuff would
Milner
sell.
action figures, little thing with Hot Wheels.
Oh, yeah.
I
If
don't
you
know,
could
man.
get the
I don't.
car,
I want to
too,
quit racing.
I'd sign up for the
He kind of
car.
reminded me of Luke. He just whining about racing the whole time. I don't want to quit, man. No, you're the best, man. No, I just gotta quit. Milner's
Speaking
kind of
Luke-
a whiner.
Oh,
Am I wrong here?
I-
Milner's
Speaking
kind of a
of Luke-
whiner.
No, he was whining.
Yeah.
Skywalker.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill was one of the people
Yes, I saw that.
considered
I
for
saw
this
that.
movie.
Yep.
They were like going to high school drama clubs and trying to recruit out of here, and Mark Hamill was in the
For
mix.
Ronnie, I would assume, maybe. I mean, that would fit.
Maybe.
I just
Or,
needed
yeah.
another. I was gonna go to town and get a power converter.
Oh, I need to go to Hachi Station.
Oh, but Uncle. Yeah, he could have played that off. I feel like he could have been Steve.
Maru. It could have. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real.
He
like,
could have been the
Ronnie Howard
12-year-old
could have been
girl.
Luke Skywalker.
He could have been the 12-year-old girl.
I
No,
assume-
Even
I
my
assume he was
parents don't
considered.
like me.
That was funny. Your car's uglier than I am. Why did you do that?
She's like, that didn't come out right. That was pretty
that was
good.
great. Oh,
Also, Harrison Ford had some amazing looks. I kind of felt like his acting in general was a little weird, but like he had some amazing like.
Yeah.
hot take.
Well, he was
that's
in,
true of his
he
entire
was
career.
in the car the whole time
Hey.
until he was finally stumbling out.
How dare you, sir? Harrison Ford is a treasure.
He's
Yeah.
never done anything wrong. Oh my
I
gosh.
love me some hair. And he didn't get any opportunities, but Harrison Ford is the best pointer in the business.
He's a pointing machine.
He will
Hey,
point at
hey.
you and it cuts you deep.
Yeah.
With a crumpled piece of paper. I love it. Give me some Harrison Ford pointing
Shrinking.
anytime.
It brought
But yeah,
back some pointing. It was good. Have you watched that?
You did, no.
Side note, awesome show.
No, but he's,
Oh my god.
yeah. It's based off a therapist I like from a documentary that, I watched. So, there you go.
Oh, very descriptive.
Yeah, speaking of super bad connection.
We're talking about. Okay, go.
Our friend, boy, that time of night
Wow.
or day, who knows when? Jonah Hill, our friend Jonah
There
Hill,
we go.
Yeah.
did a documentary about his therapist,
Jay Hill, yeah.
which is what shrinking
Yeah.
is based off that therapist. Anyway, that's a wonderful documentary. If anyone is interested,
How was it? I actually saw that. And I was like, Jonah Hill, what
I
are you
do
doing,
need
man?
to see that because I loved Shrinking. Loved it.
Really?
Please watch, everyone.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Harrison Ford and Firewall, personally. I don't know if you guys. So
That was not
bad.
good.
So
I mean,
bad.
Did not
sadly,
watch.
Harrison Ford is like it's the only movie I've never like finished. He did one with Josh Hartnett.
I don't know. I felt he was
some
pretty.
cop movie,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
and
That's
I was like, I can't finish this movie.
I don't know.
It's the only movie I've never like started and really not finished.
I feel like he
Oh.
was really good in Pets too. That was one of the Harrison Ford's highlights. Is Pets too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
That was
Pets
good.
too. I mean, it's a standalone.
How bad is the new Indiana Jones, guys? That's what we have to really.
I haven't
mean,
seen it
no,
yet.
I'm trying to ignore that it exists.
Yeah, I haven't heard good things, and I actually haven't met anyone who's seen it, so that's awkward. It's like the new Avatar.
I mean, it's gonna
Same,
be better. It's gonna be better than
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull,
Yeah, well, that's
but
Not worth
That's a
going to the
low
theater
bar.
for
low
yet.
bar. Low bar. Blade Runner. Hey, Blade Runner 2 was dope. That was great. I had a
Yeah,
great time
it's
with
great.
Blade Runner. Okay, so
Are
we
we
talked.
done, or are we just still on a tangent?
Well, we're on
I
tangent.
think they just keep talking about Harrison Ford movies. Like,
So okay,
also, like the fact that they were so fine after that big crash was kind of shocking to me.
It rolled,
Like, he's just
man.
kinda like,
Yeah,
my
but-
arm.
Rolled and
she's
blew up.
instantly out there like, how dare you run away
You,
from me?
and
like, why was she in the car?
Yes.
Dumb.
she wasn't in the.
Dumb
She
Lori.
wasn't going to stay there until.
She said, "I'm getting out as soon as we get there."
But then Milner said,
And then she changed her mind.
because of Milner, because Milner's like, "What are you doing there?" She's like, "I'll do what I want."
Yeah.
And so she's like, she stayed in there literally to be like, "Screw
Big
you,
mistake.
John."
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the lesson would have been like she died in that crash, and everyone. Was
Yeah,
sad
that'd have
about
been a
everything
whole
that
different
happened
movie.
up to
And then
that
the
point.
whole oh where can my baby be?
Oh, and then it'd be whole next. That'd be a way better sequel. Way better. Okay.
Last little thing.
Okay. More than
Were you guys questioning Toad walking away from the car with the radio going?
Oh, I knew it was going to
like-
get stolen immediately.
It's like, wait, you're just, you're talking about this Grand Central Station basically, and you're like, let's leave the car with the keys going,
This
and
sweet
we're gonna
car.
wander down to the river, like drive somewhere.
You ready
else.
for
What are you
this?
doing?
I kept waiting for the gal to be in a scheme to steal the car from him.
I was a
That's
little
what I kept waiting
suspicious
for.
of that too.
But I was a little upset how they played her off because I was expecting at the end to be one of those, "Oh, I knew all along that you didn't own this car. Oh, I knew all along," or whatever. So it was. I expected her to be more of a modern version of her. So, but she was just kind of like,
kind of dumb.
yeah, and she was a thrill seeker and just wanted to have a good time, and
But
that
yeah,
was
like I kind of enjoyed her character actually. I think that
Yeah.
she kind of played against stereotypes I had.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
in
she's
that-
a
Yeah,
little,
yeah,
yeah.
she's a little slutty, but she wasn't picky,
She's a little slutty.
and she liked him
But like
for
she also was like, I don't like that guy. He's a creep.
yeah,
Because he was.
yeah. A Vespa's
And-
close to a motorcycle, and I
It's
really
close.
like
Yeah.
motorcycles.
Very accepted.
Close enough,
that
buddy.
was so good.
Set the bar low.
That's great, and she had a good time. She's like, "You got in
Yeah.
a fight, you had a lot of fun," and
I'm
yeah,
not doing anything
other-
tomorrow.
so
The
great.
other kind of fun, like way out of nowhere, which must have been like this happened to me kind of story was, when he tried to get the second guy to buy him booze, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know what you're doing." Like, "Yeah, you lost your ID. Okay, cool." And he runs out, he tosses him a bag of liquor,
And
he
gets shot at.
You're like,
Yeah,
whoa.
Oh,
that escalated quickly.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I
Goodness.
love that was like out of nowhere. This guy's like, "I'm gonna help you," and I'm like, I don't know if he robbed the place. I don't know what happened.
Well, he got it put
But,
in a
like-
bag. So how?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was
I
impressive.
assume it was a like, all right, now give me the money, or he grabbed money from the till,
he
or
used
whatever
yeah,
it was.
maybe.
Yeah,
But like, just like
that
here
was
you go,
so
bud.
funny. Yeah, right.
You run off and like, did he die? Did they witness a murder?
Yeah. I mean, it was close enough range that and he shot enough times.
Hey.
I kind of felt like he could have got him.
Toad didn't care. He got his booze. He was out of there.
But that and like the Pharaoh subplot were like these kind of modern-y feeling
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for
like
sure.
craziness things that you would see.
It
in
was like the
Superbad, or you'd see in some
Superbad
of these
when
other
you're
movies.
like, go with
Oh.
the cops and they love McLovin.
I was gonna
but
go.
instead of cops, it's,
I was gonna
a
go
gang.
with like Blue Velvet,
yeah, that didn't go very well.
Because it was just like Blue Velvet. He got captured by the
But
bad
they didn't
guys.
want him to join the group afterwards.
No, they were a little.
I was saying a little more Superbad.
Yeah,
like,
no,
we
super
really
bad.
Like you,
it's a
McLovin.
teen movie, not Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
So Blue Velvet is
Much
rough.
more rapey in Blue Velvet.
Yeah, literally.
Air rapey.
Yeah.
You're a
So
Heineken man.
okay, so
Pabst.
is this or is this not the best teen movie?
No.
Yes,
It's not.
It is
it is.
the original.
It is a teen movie.
It's the best.
It's the original
it's the
of this
biggest?
setup.
I think so. I didn't think so before.
Boo.
Because what like I was thinking about the ones that would beat it, and don't get me wrong, I've watched Varsity Blues way too many times.
Well,
that's not a snobby movie.
Seth has brought up Varsity Blues at least a dozen times.
Almost as
doesn't.
much as
Okay.
Gilmore Girls.
I
and,
love Gilmore Girls. Actually, I
Dawson's
don't.
Creek.
Dawson's Creek's legit. You shut your mouth.
Speaking of teens,
Speaking of people from Varsity Blues.
Yeah. First of all, the least believable part is him being a quarterback. Let's be real right now. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But the other guy being a quarterback, yeah,
I'm
that's
not
Fast and
living your
Furious.
life.
That's Fast and Furious, boy. You better believe he was a quarterback. Although, you know what I love about Varsity Blues? It's
talking about
truth. It's truth, guys. That's just how Texas is with football. That's just how it is, guys. It's religion.
I give it 10. 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, snobs.
Okay, so we're saying
What
no, it
is
isn't.
the best movie then? Because I
Right.
say this is the best teen movie. It set the standard. It perfected the genre, and everyone copied it.
Everyone
Prove me
did
wrong.
copy
Doesn't
it,
mean
but
Prove me wrong.
they copied it, but they improved upon it.
No.
For sure, improved
How?
upon it.
Give me one example.
Well, there was actually stuff going on in all the other movies.
Come on, like what?
People weren't just
Can't hardly
driving
wait.
around all
What?
slow.
Seth Green trying to get it on in the bathroom? Come on, man. That's
Absolutely.
not. No.
Club,
Huh?
Oh, Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club.
So are we gonna go?
Yes.
John Hughes is a better teen maker than George Lucas.
Than George Lucas.
He's
Yes,
got
I would
way
say
more-
John Hughes understands teenagers than George
He's
Lucas.
got way more angst. That's for sure.
I do
Say no.
like the
It's
80s,
college.
even though the 90s are like I don't, it hits a little too close to home for me. All those 90s, Can't Hardly Wait, and all those other ones, those feel like my high school. But those 80s John Hughes movies do feel like the standard that I knew for high school movies. But they didn't have because you know my favorite teen movie of all time before. Favorite.
Not another teen movie. Sorry, Chris Evans.
2. Not another teen movie. 2. No. Is Mean Girls, which totally makes fun of the genre.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
And it's so good, so funny, hilariously taking every genre and put it on its head or just going with it. It's great. But this is
So you don't put that above this?
I don't, because it is an era film, much like this is, but it's too aware of itself. It's too obviously making fun of the genre while still being funny. Because like you wouldn't have a character like Regina's mom.
Not like other moms. I'm a cool mom.
I'm a cool mom. That's obviously like an SNL bit. Like it was too SNL-y, if that makes sense. This felt like it was still a genre film, because the only movies that I would put in the same category, because I love Dazed and Confused, because it feels so like whatever. What's the other one where in the 70s is like a baseball team and they're just like cruising around?
Well, that's another Linklater movie.
Yeah.
Everybody Wants Some.
Everybody wants some. That was a good one too. So
But
like
also, Dazed and Confused
good
is
one.
also about sports. I mean, the high school
football, yeah.
piece of it. And,
Yeah.
and Wiley
Oh, they're
Wiggins,
doing
he's
baseball.
playing baseball at the end
Have
and
we-
too.
have we brought up?
Hey,
Wait, guys, have we brought up Varsity Blues yet?
No. Do you like that one?
I do want to bring up my least favorite acting choice of all time is in Dazed and Confused.
Oh.
Every
Ooh.
time our young protagonist is like frustrated, he does this like
Oh,
nose
yeah.
pinch
Oh
thing.
yeah, it's so bad.
Wiley
I want
Wiggins.
to punch him in the face.
You know, I'd like to point out Seth had that same haircut.
Well, yeah, all of us did. Come on, that's
Oh, yeah.
that's messed up.
I
dude.
didn't.
and then I had it because Seth had it.
Yeah.
You know, so I had a lot of hair.
I'd like to
at one point in
apologize
time.
right now. I'd like to apologize right now for that, Pat. Yeah, my worst part about Days Confused is the bully in it. The not
Yeah.
Ben Affleck's character.
Ben Affleck.
Not Ben Affleck, because Ben Affleck is a great bully, and he's always. But the other guy with like the unibrow thing going on, that's the only thing that guy ever did. Because he's like this like the party guy, right? But he never like was like in anything else. He wasn't like Stifler.
No.
Right.
It was just a weird. It was just a kind of everyone else became stars, but that guy just fell off the map. I was like,
Well, I'm gonna say Spider-Man: Homecoming is the best teen school movie of all time.
boo! That is a cheap pansy way out. That is a
I don't really believe that.
pansy
but
way out.
What about
It is a good movie.
Back to the Future? Because it's high school in multiple decades.
I thought about this.
I think it's just one of those that's not about high school.
It's true. You're
well,
not
and it doesn't fit the algorithm of this.
because the girlfriend and him never have drama, other than he just leaves. That's my only problem with it for being a high school movie. There's no drama. Yeah. He's literally saving the world.
Lady Bird, you could go Juno.
And I haven't. I love Juno.
pretty
Juno's
great.
legit, but I haven't seen Lady Bird, and
Even
I've heard it's
not
amazing.
so much about school.
No, it's much
Right,
bigger
like-
problems. Old guy trying to hit on you. Like, come on, like there's a lot of things
Yeah.
going on here.
Lady Bird kind
I
of
think
fits.
super bad. Yeah, but even that's a mother-daughter story, right? It's not even about. It's about people who are young. I think 8th grade even,
What about I, Tonya?
which is not high school.
I,
But,
Tonya's a good
That's
high
after
school
high
movie.
school.
Oh, it's after high school.
After high school.
I mean, it's a good movie.
Great movie.
So yeah, I don't know.
What about the one with
I mean,
Jonah Hill's sister, Beanie? What's the name of the one she's in?
that is a pretty good one.
I don't know what you're
It's
talking about.
basically the girl super bad,
Oh, really?
kind of. She's great.
I haven't seen it.
It's not
It's-
about the kids, but
it's
Cock
the-
Blockers is actually pretty enjoyable.
Oh, I heard Cockblockers is pretty funny. So I feel like, guys,
I guess it's
the
called Blockers.
more you talk, the more I'm validated in my
No.
choice. I literally think
Well, I think where you have validation is that this, and I'll go back to Seven Samurai. We'll equate
Yes.
American Graffiti to Seven Samurai. It did set up like a pretty great template
yeah.
for teen and kind of just this young youth genre storytelling, right? Where
coming
we're
of
bouncing
I
between
just
coming
storylines,
of age story.
I
coming
just
of age,
think this-
slice of life.
Template has been improved upon. I feel like Fast Times at Ridgemont High was better.
Yeah.
I feel like
But you probably like the Magnificent Seven better than Seven Samurai.
no, I don't. I don't. But they're close.
Meant to be a slight.
I know that was supposed to be a slight,
Close.
but I love
No.
that. That's a good film.
Yes.
That's a good
Okay,
film
by the way.
snob diss, by the way. You probably like Magnificent Seven.
would,
more than
wouldn't
like
you?
Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
But people, I think probably call it spectacular now. I'm looking at the internet, but there's a lot of good teen movies.
Research team.
But I'm going to go back to Seth. I'll give Seth props here. It's hard to totally dismiss this as a choice.
If you can't see online, folks, I am raising the roof. That's what I'm doing.
Very cool.
If you
Very
can
good.
see online, I
apologize.
apologize for
Sorry.
what's going on
Sorry
right
about
now.
that.
Where's my jock jams? Play that jock jams.
And our second season was cut short. Very short.
Canceled immediately.
Immediately. All right, guys.
But
What else you got?
no.
What's your top movie?
that's
What's
it.
your top movie then, Pat?
I don't know. I think that's.
Here's the
where
thing,
I'm
guys.
gonna not
You gotta-
battle
I
you
think
is
the one
can't
from
have a
e-
better answer.
I think having selected one from each decade
Hey.
following this movie, they are all equally good.
Poop or get off the pot,
Because
guys.
it's the same
Just
thing.
say you're wrong, and I'm
I
right.
would rather rewatch Dazed and Confused. I'd rather rewatch Superbad.
It's
I'd
hard
rather
being
rewatch
wrong.
Yeah,
a bunch
I
of
But
agree.
you guys just have to admit that you're wrong.
I would rather
and
rewatch
I
the
am right.
others
I am right.
over and over and over. 'Cause-
You would not.
Yes.
This one's great. You'd watch it with your mom. You watch it with my mom.
Yeah, my mom did see it, so there's that.
Yeah.
But-
this is a good one.
But
And the only thing
How'd
she
you feel
said
about
was,
that?
"It's a great soundtrack."
Yeah, which is how I felt about Days of Confused the first time I watched it. So there we go.
Well, you can go hang out with mom.
Yeah, I will. I will hang out with your mom.
Good.
And Kathy, I'm coming over. All right, guys. Anything else?
Listen.
I guess my other hot take is this is George Lucas's most artistic film,
Ooh.
even though it's not overly artistic. Maybe
not
THX
over.
is the more artsy.
There we go. Yeah, THX 1135 is definitely.
But
more
like
artistic,
this is
but-
like it's
Successful artistic.
There we go.
yeah
Appeals
like, I
to
feel
the
like
masses, and it killed it in the
it's
theaters. By the way,
emotionally-
He was
emotionally
challenged to do it, and he
believable.
did it.
Yeah, like
yeah, way to go.
and of course I love Star Wars in a general way, but like this was in a lot of ways way better than Star Wars as a story. It's just the spectacle and like the fun of Star Wars as a universe
Yeah.
overtakes it. But like man, like
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, for sure. And the cultural impact that Star Wars has, for sure.
But again, I think to your point again, like the cultural impact of this is like
Huge.
pretty astounding,
Pretty good.
and
You know what movie is better?
insane to me that
Okay, I'm ready.
okay, well, what is it?
Grease.
Ooh.
Also
It's
great
a
music.
musical. It's a musical, so it's
a
kind of cheating.
musical.
And it
But
is.
there's still
it is
the
a
cars,
honor,
the racing, the stories.
and it is a high school.
Way,
Okay.
way less believable.
Oh, 100%.
character.
No, and it's totally different genre.
Sure.
It's a musical genre,
They actually focus on the
Yeah.
women a little
'Cause-
bit more.
which is unfortunate, but you
Oh.
can't have it all. You can't have it all.
The men are actually attractive.
Whoa,
Yeah.
hot take.
Hot take.
It is actually pretty
Hey.
interesting. I mean, was
Other
Milner
than
handsome?
Harrison
Is he
Ford.
handsome?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's good looking.
so Milner and Harrison Ford are the two good looking dudes,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But they're like not
B
top
characters, kind of.
casting.
No, not at all. But
The ones you're
But our-
supposed
yeah,
to
our
be like
leads.
focusing on are
in American Pie, are the hot ones the main one? No, it's the dorky ones. It's
Superbad.
always the dorky ones.
Michael Cera and Jonah Hill. And Charlie
true.
Pants Up. Yeah.
That's true.
I'm just saying, this
This is
genre
it's a
is
different
literally
template. I
the
guess I'm thinking of a different template.
Yeah, I
a
think
musical template
It's
musicals have to have a
think
good
the
looking
other-
guy.
in which
What it
all of the
follows
actors are not in high school.
If we want to go Channing Tatum,
yeah, it's young men who were not
Not cool.
typically attractive
Exactly
or
right.
athletic or whatever. But
what about
like,
Richard
they're
Dreyfuss?
winning
Was
to
he
get the
attractive as
girl.
a young guy? No. Okay, just checking. Yeah,
Yeah, but he was just charming.
Yeah,
Yeah, just charming,
for
right?
sure.
What about John
But it's kind of
Cusack?
that
Is he good
fantasy
looking
about,
as
like-
young? John Cusack's good looking though. We'll give him that.
John Cusack is an interesting looking fellow. I think he got more handsome as he got older.
Okay, best
He's
John,
fine.
best high school John Cusack movie. Go. Say anything. Not even close.
High school?
Well, I guess they're all.
Yeah,
That's the
okay.
only high school one, isn't it?
Weird Science? No.
No,
16
that was
Candles.
Val Kilmer.
16 Candles.
That's a good one too.
But that's not the best of him. That's just the best movie he's in from high school.
It's true. I think for him, say anything.
Well, yeah, it's the only one where he's actually like a star.
Yeah, it's so good.
The other thing that the soundtrack thing made me think of was High Fidelity, which is another great movie built on a soundtrack.
Is that Peter Evans?
I think Grosse Point Blank had a pretty good
Oh,
soundtrack
so
too.
good too.
Oh yeah,
Is that
Love me
Peter
some John
Evan
Cusack.
Frampton? I quote,
Let's get it
I
on.
quote that all the time.
Jack
Oh,
Black making his
Oh,
debut.
killing
as,
it.
Like a
So
great
good.
singer. It's good stuff.
question: is it worse to die young, or to live long enough to stop being relevant? I don't think that's the exact quote, but
Fade
more or less,
away.
fade away.
Yeah, better to burn out than to fade away.
Oh gosh. Okay, guys,
Good
let's.
stuff.
We are landing this plane finally.
We're
This
gonna edit a lot of
is
this.
a freaking treat, though. I have to say it. This film was a doozy.
Was it?
It was a
No.
doozy.
Doozy worthy.
For those drinking along with us, doozy is a drink word.
It's the word. Hashtag start drinking. A little late to start
That
drinking.
says
though.
doozy.
Every
I say
episode.
it again. I don't know what Mariah's drink word is, but
Yeah.
either way,
I think
you're
it's
drinking too much.
I'll have to come up with one.
good morning. I think is her drink word.
Oh. It's classic.
Time to wake up.
All right. We got to do it. Drink for this movie. This is a tall
Old Harper.
Old Harper. I was
Made
gonna
up
Schlitz.
whiskey, whatever.
Oh
it
yeah,
was.
that's what it is. Old Harper, because that's what they drink in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
gonna say
I don't know what that is.
Schlitz malt liquor, because that's the only old like alcohol that was like a little higher.
That's
ABV.
actually kind of another interesting thing about this movie. It was not particularly drug or alcohol centric.
Yeah.
There was just that.
Or
There's only-
sex.
What's her face? One of
Yeah,
them.
it was like.
And then Toad was violently ill afterward.
Yeah, that was
Oh, yeah.
hilarious. No, he drinks all the
That
time. He
sound
told me.
Yeah,
No-
he told me.
No slop. It was just dry heaving.
Yeah.
I needed some liquid sounds there.
Oh my gosh.
She was like, what a cute character.
Yeah.
She was great.
Like,
It was
she just
very
believed in
endearing.
everything.
No, and I
Yeah.
liked how different every character was. It was very, I liked that a lot. No,
It was good.
I really
It was
enjoyed
a
this
good
movie more than I
It's not
thought.
my favorite high school movie, and I don't actually have a better answer for but
I'll say it's not my
You know
favorite,
it's
but it's the best.
I say Dazed and Confused is better.
Yeah, I'm still gonna go with my original answer. What I like the best, but this is the best one. So, there you go,
Anywho.
folks. Anyways, folks, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob. I'm Seth,
Mariah.
and
Pat.
we all can't wait to see you next time. Keep watching movies, keep trying to be a snob, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Today's podcast is sponsored by Seth David Films. Looking for a luxury wedding videography company in the Salem, Portland, Eugene area? Look no further than Seth David Films. Their team of experts is dedicated to capturing your special day in stunning high-definition quality. With years of experience and an eye for detail, they will create a personalized wedding film that you'll cherish for a lifetime. From intimate elopements to grand celebrations, they offer a variety of packages to fit your needs and budget. Contact them today to learn more about their services and how they can make your wedding day unforgettable.